did has started something larger, and I want to thank you.
The planning, scheduling, training, implementation, execution, and analysis of MCAS takes an incredible amount of time. I can't imagine what schools do that have like 12 sections of fourth grade or 12 sections of fifth grade. It's just amazing, the time that it's taking. A personal goal for myself, I don't know how it's going to happen, and the principalship has certainly changed over 20 years. This is my 20th year as principal and my 32nd year as in elementary education. And a personal goal for myself is to get out of the office more and get in the classrooms where I really truly miss it. But the management has just grown so greatly, and to make sure that things are done correctly, it's quite a task. But the staff, the goal is to make sure that we do make every effort possible for children to score on the top 2 proficiency levels. The staff slices it and dices it, and we have the whole schools involved in with the grade level presentations and identification of children to see what services that kids aren't scoring in the top 2 proficiency levels, to see what services they're getting. But there's a definite need to address, only so much can be done during this regular school day. And there's a definite need to address the needs of these individuals outside of the structure of the regular school day. And I know there's been many suggestions about working with that, summer programs and things like that. The reading incentive program, and most of these goals are repeated each year, but what I gave David is, I guess we already have the Heifer International one. We do our reading reading for pleasure programs, 3 or 4 of them each year. But the one that we added this year through one of the teachers was Heifer International. Is there an extra copy of that? Thanks. A delightful program, and children, they have that story read to them during library class. They got one of these handouts. There was a video shown, and basically they go to their parents and parents' friends to pledge money for reading, and then this all gets translated into, instead of directly providing food to poor families in poor countries, Heifer International, through the donations, they provide farm animals. And in many parts of the world, a family's health, in fact, their whole way of living can be radically improved with just one animal. So you saw posters all over the school of what each classroom bought, a cow or whatever, and it ended with a whole school assembly. I'm going to tell you, we had 3 sort of impromptu whole school assemblies this year. One was on Veterans Day, and one was for the Heifer International. I forget what the other was. And it was so touching, and just the staff and us, nothing for show, just ourselves, and with some singing, and the Heifer International kids held up their poster and articulated what they were able to do with the funds that they raised from their school. And it was a wonderful way of building community. And there were, after they sing a few of those songs, there wasn't a dry eye in the house that Mr. Tafer worked on with the kids, especially on Veterans Day. We so rarely take the time to bring the whole school together because we're so wrapped up in our schedules and lockstep and together going through the whole day. But I found those this year to be very, very worthwhile, as did the teachers, and everybody commented on it. But this Heifer International is just, it says, families may now have nutritious milk from a cow, goat, or even a water buffalo, income from the sale of eggs or to buy medicine or school supplies, or warm wool shorn from llamas to wear in frigid mountain climates. But then these people have to give something back with what they were able to do to another family or whatever. I won't go on and on about it, but it was really, that's something that we definitely will repeat. School safety, the additional things, in fact, they already mentioned the assistance alert. Now that is really, I haven't had to use it, but that's been a valuable service, and I'm glad that committee supported that. Our emergency operations plan has been updated, and we've been retrained. The incident management team has been retrained. I would look forward, and I'm sure it will be a recommendation to staff that if the superintendent and committee would consider some sort of entry system to the school, buzzing system, or a camera system. It's funny because I was walking the dog, I live in Wilmington, I was walking the dog, and I saw their sign outside the door, which basically says you need to buzz in, and, you know, and out of concern for safety for everyone, you need to buzz in and identify yourself, and I did see a camera, so I'd be interested to see what information.
I believe we do have a warrant item in October
Right.
asking for the first round of funding for security plan for all
Unfortunately, I
schools.
think that's the comfort levels. All doors are locked in the building. Teachers and staff have been excellent about keeping them closed, and except for the front door. And it only takes one door, and I think that's where we're at. And we're saying that to you. So I basically went through all the goals and all that, and the goals coming up. There's all sorts of details that you can take a look at with the elderly outreach in our school, the Christian Community Service Center's Take a Tag program, coats the kids that we did through Anton's Cleaners, Valentine's for Veterans. Those are all good things. I don't mean to short shrift them, but I know you have other things. But all this stuff takes time. All of it takes time, and without the good nature of the teachers willing to do above and beyond, without our music person and our phys ed person going above and beyond. There'll be a clowns play on Thursday night. We've never used the high school auditorium, but we're using the high school auditorium, and that's through the really a donation from Mr. Taker working after school doing that with boys and girls. And they will remember that more than their math lessons the rest of their lives. Other initiatives, school system initiatives, they're not formal goals, but it involve supporting the school safety committee within the North Reading Public Schools, and also we'll be working on continue to expand our Open Circle social competency program to grade 5.
Extremely comprehensive.
Pardon me?
Is it extremely comprehensive, as usual?
Little disjointed, but
Any questions
so
for
much, so.
council members?
We've had a great year. It hasn't been without its challenges this year, and I know that we will do, well, the MCAS scores went down, and I said to David, it isn't from a lack of effort. No one taught any less or tried any less. Who knows why? The same effort and the same pride, I'm sure, will be there with the entire staff, not just teaching staff. Again, it's going to be a challenge to be able to keep up, like you say, the momentum and the amount that you can do. Thank you always for your support.
A motion to accept the middle school improvement?
Move to accept the Little School Improvement Plan for 2007-8.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much. High school?
I thought you had committed our policy manual
Yeah.
to art, Jerry. You committed our policy manual to art.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce two members of the high school council that are here with me this evening. Mrs. Colella is a community representative, and she's also the co-chairman of the high school council, and also Mr. Rosemary, the assistant principal, who serves in an ex officio capacity. I'd like to start by just highlighting some of the accomplishments that we've realized in the last school year, and that's the 2-page progress report that's at the front of our school improvement plan. Essentially, what we've highlighted here are the strides that we believe we've made in the area of curriculum, improvements to the physical plant, and in the area of technology, and also social programs for students. You may remember a few months ago, I was before you presenting the proposed new courses that would be included in our program of studies booklet, and I'm happy to say that currently we are offering 5 additional courses to students at the high school for 07-08, and that is due in large part to the advocacy of the school council, who is very supportive and looking to expand elective offerings for students. So to the best of our ability, as staffing will allow, and also as financial resources will allow, we will be offering students additional courses in foreign language, that is specifically level 5 courses in Spanish and French, which would afford those students who wish to continue with a 4th year of study in either of those languages, but not be as rigorous a course requirement as an advanced placement course might be. Also, I'm happy to tell you that we are adding up, since I've been the principal at the high school, now ending my 4th year, the first additional advanced placement course, and that would be in the United States history. And then lastly, a course offering for assisting students in preparing for standardized tests, specifically the SAT and the ACT tests. And those, again, I bring those to your attention because the school council has been very supportive of those initiatives. And because the high school council does have student representatives on it, we enjoy their input, and they have a very good perspective for us as to what they see as programmatic needs that we should be having at the high school. So maybe that's a good time to just acknowledge, too, the members of the school council that are not here today, but also contribute a great deal to the discussions that we have monthly. They are, we have 6 student representatives. We have Mark Buchanevitz, Katie Goldstein, Brendan Moss, Kevin O'Leary, Jack Walsh, and we also have Nick Rocco, who's not on the sign-in page, and I apologize for that, but Nick has been a student rep for the high school council for 2 years. We have 2 teacher representatives, Mr. Campobasso and Mr. Doucette. As I said, Mrs. Colella is our community rep now. She had served as a parent representative when her daughter Stephanie was a student at the high school. We have Mrs. Hartwell, who is a parent representative, and Mrs. Heather Holden Metcalf, who is also a parent representative. And they, as I said, contribute a great deal. The students particularly, they're competing with a lot of things in the afternoons, but to the best of their ability, they have attended meetings and been good contributors to the discussions.
Excuse me, John, I think Nicole.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to, make it clear to the community with these new course offerings you have, they do not involve adding staff. This is just sort of juggling what some of the staff are doing.
You
will
are
be
correct.
doing.
That's
Or it's a
correct.
replacement for another course.
Okay.
Right, or
It
other
might
courses
be-
will be
One
dropped.
may be offered one year and not the
Right.
next.
No additional
I
staff.
don't want anyone to be
Yeah.
confused that we have 5 new course offerings, so we have 5 new teachers.
You are
No.
correct, that's right.
Okay.
In the area of the physical plant, one of the things that I think I'm most proud of that we were able to do this year is there was no charge. This was a free program. We worked with the federal government, the Environmental Protection Agency, who came in and did a full audit of our science labs. And over April vacation, actually it was nice to hear that the gentleman that came in and coordinated that for us was very complimentary of where we were at in comparison to a lot of schools that he's been in terms of the conditions of their chemistry labs, particularly science labs, and what chemicals are being stored and whether or not they're being stored properly. But nonetheless, they were on site for 4 days during the April vacation week, inventorying and reorganizing our science labs so that chemicals were stored properly and that there was a lessened risk for people in the building, students and staff. He met on 3 occasions with the science department staff. 2 of those were kind of setting the stage for the work that needed to be done by the EPA and what work needed to be done by the teaching staff in advance. And then one was actually a seminar that he held where an educational seminar going forward. How should we be thinking about the storage of chemicals in the school? So again, for no cost to the community, I think we've realized a great benefit, and our science labs look a lot nicer. They, I believe, are safer than they had been, and it's a good thing, and it's something that we're very proud of. We're always looking to improve the building in terms of its the physical plant. We're looking to gain space where we can for both storage and for teaching stations. But obviously, we're prohibited by things much larger than the school council is able to achieve. Nonetheless, they do advocate very strongly for moving forward with our request for looking at the high school and expanding it, or maybe someday even replacing it. So you'll notice in the plan itself that is mentioned as well.
John, I also want to mention that, David, Dr. Schroeder has some news a little bit later on about the progress of our submissions to the state for funding for secondary schools. So it's moving in the right direction at least.
Good. I also mentioned in that section of the progress report is technological advances, and two things that I think have contributed greatly to our ability to communicate with families.